Hey guys, this is Gemini here with another comic review by Gemini. We are reviewing the X-Men number 33. Yes, my age. And if you like it, give it a thumbs up and comments. Be kind. This storyline continues on with a two-parter that started in issue 32, which has the X-Men fighting Juggernaut for the second time after they fought him for the first time in issue number 12. This issue also has a special guest starring role of Doctor Strange. And then, of course, his mentor, the Ancient One, shows up, and then a bunch of other hijinks happen. In the immortal words of Stan Lee, God rest his soul, listen up, true believers. Here's the story. Just as any good ongoing series, they do a recap, of course. This one is through the eyes of Juggernaut. And so Juggernaut pretty much exclaims how that ever since his last battle with the X-Men, he's been in the basement in a coma. But somehow, mysteriously, he wakens up with Xavier now in the coma. And he defeats the X-Men with Xavier's mind-reading ability. And as he's about to lead the X-Men, the mysterious group known as Factor 3, which tried to attack the X-Men before, through the character Banshee, called out to Juggernaut. He, of course, left the X-Men because he thought they were goners already, and went to go find out who this Factor 3 group is. The government knew that the Juggernaut was with Xavier the whole time. So when the Juggernaut broke free of Xavier's hold, they somehow was told, which I don't really know how they were told, but somehow they were told, and they were trying to stop Juggernaut and recapture him. Juggernaut was heading towards what I read to be some kind of airport and or government facility that makes airplanes in New York. I don't quite understand what exactly he was going after. But then, of course, no mere mortal can stop the all-powerful Juggernaut. The story goes back to the X-Mansion, where Jean Grey has decided to use the amplifier to amplify her mental abilities to read Xavier's mind, to be able to bring him out of the coma and to stop the Juggernaut. So with the amplifier, Jean Grey was able to probe Xavier's mind of all the research he's done on the ruby and the crimson bands of Satarak. Satarak! Yeah, I went there. Again. And so, what Jean Grey's able to see is the mystical one, known as the Ancient One, was observing the ruby for its mystical powers, but yet the demon that protected it thought that the Ancient One wanted its power. So the demon was like, "Oh, hell to the no. I'm not gonna let you take it." And then the Ancient One's like, "I'm just here to observe and be all ancient and mystical." And then the demon was like, "Oh, hell no. No one's gonna be mystical up in here." And then the Ancient One's like, "Well, then I'm gonna be all mystical on you." And then with the mystical ability of mysticalness and mysticness-ticity, try to say that 10 times fast, He actually threw the demon into the crystal. Then, of course, Jean Grey got out of the magical mystery tour of Xavier's mental mind. Yeah, I went there, having a little fun, so you can come and join along. Come on, it's fun. Have a little randomness in your life. Yeah. Anyways, let's go back to the story. So, Jean Grey gets out of the mental imagery of the Ancient One, or as I like to call, the Mystical One. Because the Ancient One, come on. The Ancient One. Oh, so ancient and old and the One. Yeah. I don't understand that character, to be honest. And no dissing the writers who came up with it, which, if I remember correctly, was Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, the writer and artist. But anyone who has seen the movie Doctor Strange, they actually changed the Ancient One's gender from male to female, and I thought that was very ingenious. Just something to think about. But I digress. Let's continue on with the story. Okay, what I left out in the last review was that Cerebro actually fell over. Yeah, it actually fell over and toppled on itself, and it was like, ouch, I fell and I can't get up. So in this issue, the X-Men is like, we'll help you up, buddy. Come on. And then Beast hooks up this thing that somehow amplifies it even more, which once again, I don't understand what Cerebro is doing. But guess who shows up right at the nick of time? Bum, bum, bum. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange. I almost said Doctor Who. Why not? Let's just reference Doctor Who right here so I can do it in the hashtags. Hashtag Doctor Who is not Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange shows up and says, so who's been talking about the Ancient One or the Mystical One? As Jim Verarde says. He doesn't really say that. But then, of course, he shows up as an astro form, which is kind of a mystical and psychic way of showing up somewhere without physically being there. Gee, thank you, Marvel. It's not like the X-Men aren't good enough for a nice visit by the Doctor. Yes, I made another Doctor Who reference. So the X-Men clued in Doctor Strange in how they needed help bringing back Xavier and stopping the mystically charged Juggernaut. Remember, Juggernaut is not a mutant. He is a magic-wielding character. So they had to get a magical wielding character for help. So Doctor Strange told Cyclops to pick a spell buddy to go on a magical tour. So of course he picks Jean Grey, his lover, but they don't know that they love each other yet. So they ended up going on this magical place that's so mystical and special. Korea in the 60s. It's not really magical. Just to let you know. While Cyclops and Jean are at Korea, they kind of have to dodge these soldiers, you know, to make sure that they can get into this nice hidden temple that the soldiers don't quite know about. They get into this temple and they find the Jewel of Satarak. And then they do this magical thing and they get inside. And they end up finding this whole crimson universe. And they're like, holy crap, where are we? So as they were in this crimson universe, all of a sudden, the demon that the Ancient One threw into the crystal was pretty much calling out Cyclops and Marvel Girl. I'm pretty much calling them on their shit. Pretty much saying, oh, you guys are intruders. This is my world. Huh. I call outcast nowadays. I'm sorry. I know that sounds kind of weird, and I'm trying to go with the voice I gave him earlier. But to be honest, when I very first was reading this, I wanted to give him a really shrill voice, like, yeah, for I am outcast. Welcome to the Crimson Universe, where I am pretty much God. Ah. Yeah, that was the voice. Pretty much, I was thinking so much of G.I. Joe and Cobra Commander. So let's move on, as the story does, to Juggernaut and the rest of the X-Men. Juggernaut is trying to go to this airport or this place that makes airplanes so that he can take an airplane/aircraft to Europe, where Factor 3 is. Just as Juggernaut went to this so-called hangar/airport, the X-Men was able to go there with their X-helicopter. And Juggernaut broke through the chain link fence like it was paper, of course. But then he was upset. Dang it! The X-Men got here at the same time I did! And then so the X-Men had this great, brilliant idea, which actually seemed kind of cool and creepy at the same time, to use the blade from the helicopter to literally cut down the Juggernaut. But he's the Juggernaut, female dogs. Then the story goes back to Jean and Cyclops in the Crystal, where the demon starts attacking again and again and again, and they start figuring out that actually they're in some kind of time loop. And then the only way to defeat the demon was for him to confront time itself through Jean's watch. The demon's defeated. Jean and Cyclops grab the crystal within the crystal and then join the rest of the X-Men, where they are literally subduing the Juggernaut as much as they can. But then all of a sudden, Jean and Cyclops comes in with the crystal and then takes away Juggernaut's power so much that he goes inside the crystal. And then they go to the mansion, but then they find out that Xavier's gone. Oh no!